morning, I'm Michelle Martin and welcome to DCUTV's Evening News. Our first story tonight. DCU Dance Society held their event, the Full Monty, for the second year running last week. Self-described as cheeky and raunchy, our girls Amy Lawler and Shirley Donlan went to check it and some of the contestants out.
DCU Dance Society held its second annual Full Monty event in the right venue in Swords earlier this month. The event sees societies from DCU taking part in a dancing competition with the aim of embracing the idea of Body and Soul Week. We spoke to DCU Dance Society's event manager, Sinead Elbert, to find out more about the event.
It's just mainly societies that can't, well, maybe they can dance, but like we don't know that. So like rugby, ESOC, sober sock, the SU, dancing, and then they're going to be judged by our three judges. One of our judges, his name's Harry Delaney, he's on our dance society, he's not on the committee though. And then we have two student union members, Emer and James. So Ronald McDonald is our chosen charity. All our proceeds go to them kind of after every big event that we do. So like the Experiment, Best Dance Crew that we held in Semester 1, and then Full Monty. So yeah.
It wouldn't have been a dance society event without an appearance from the society's very own glamorous dancing dolls. Presenters Laura Horan and Sean Carey entertained the crowd by encouraging the audience to get involved and even hosted an onstage first date. After much deliberation and dancing, the judges crowned DCU's Rugby Society the winner of the Full Monty 2017. I'm Amy Lawler, DCU TV News.
Roscommon football player turned fashion guru Neil Patrick Collins came to talk to DCU students as part of ESOC's Enterprise Week. Lauren Ennis and Emily Crowley spoke to the Neil about turning a passion into a career.
Former Roscommon footballer Neil Patrick Collins was one of the key speakers for ESOC's Enterprise Week in DCU last week. The former DCU welfare officer attributed a lot of his success to the clubs and societies that he was involved in, which included the GAA Club and the Style Society. Collins spoke to students about making your passion your paycheck and how his personal experiences in DCU got him to where he is today.
I kind of felt that I could get a balance between playing football and living that lifestyle as well. So that's kind of what I chased after the first year. So it is like, I guess when I was thinking about this the last day or two, being in here and looking back on my time, like a lot of the decisions I made that led to what I'm doing now happened when I was in DCU. So if I think of like my football side, I obviously kept that going for a couple of years. I'm just taking a small break at the moment from playing. And then a lot of the stuff I did with, say, the Style Society, that really influenced the direction I went in after DCU. So that's why I think it's so important this time for you guys. Not every decision, like even if you're studying, I don't know, business, A&F, that doesn't necessarily have to be the direction you go in. I think actually the things you learn at this time, maybe you'll learn that you don't want to go in that direction. And if that's what you take out of it, that's great as well. But basically, it's a really shaping time for you guys and what will happen going forward. And you might be able to see it exactly now, but the small decisions you make will lead on to what you do in the future.
I spoke to the founder of the Style Surgeon about his career move back home in Roscommon and the reaction that he got to it.
I think it just happened gradually, when I was showing up to training in extravagant outfits and things like this. I think then it wasn't so much of a shock when I just gradually transitioned into having an interest in that.
He also told DCUtv about veering away from his original sports science degree to follow his passion for fashion.
Yeah, it can be challenging, all right, to break away from the grips of the normal paths, It definitely can, but at the same time, I guess you just have to go with your feeling on it and go all the way with it, and I guess try and embrace it as much as possible. But it can be challenging, but I guess that's the joy in it as well, and I think that's there's good living and there's good life in that.
This is Lauren Ennis for DCU TV News.
Minister for Communities and National Drug Strategies, Catherine Byrne, spoke to Aaron McElroy and Shirley Donlan about the criticism received after the Cabinet approved legislation to create a supervised injection facility.
On the 7th of February, the Cabinet approved the introduction of legislation to establish supervised injection facilities for drug users. The plan is for facilities to be staffed by medical professionals trained to deal with overdoses and to be a place where users can access sterile needles and spaces to inject themselves with drugs they have brought with them. The legislation was suggested by the Anna Liffey Group, who mentioned it in their annual report in 2012, and it was taken on board to be put on the government agenda for this year. Minister of State for Communities and National Drug Strategy, Catherine Byrne, spoke about why this would be a positive move, and she responded to criticisms by groups such as the Temple Bar Company and the Restaurants Association about the possibility of the city centre becoming a magnet for drug users.
One of the reasons was, I suppose, as in other countries now, there's over 90 of them around the world, to facilitate people who unfortunately are chronic users and people with homeless and mental health and other issues, be able to facilitate them to inject in a safe environment, particularly within a health service where there would be doctors and nurses and that able to assist if they got into difficulty. And it has been proven, I suppose, in other countries that people haven't died in these places. There's never been a death recorded in any of them across the world. And so that's why it's called supervised safe injection facility, because it is supervised. It's a safe and clean environment. I think I can understand the concerns around the businesses in town, in the capital city, but unfortunately it's already there. The people are already there injecting. The only thing is they're injecting openly and they're leaving all the disregarded needles, which can be a health hazard. Ours is a pilot scheme. It'll be only one for now, and how well it goes we'll see then about the rest of the country, but there's businesses calling for it in Cork and other places as well.
The legislation is expected to be introduced in the Dáil in the coming weeks, with the first centre due to be opened in Dublin city centre in the autumn. Aaron McElroy, DCUtv News.
DCU Newswire hosted a highly anticipated pro-life, pro-choice debate on campus last week. Aaron McElroy and Sarah McLaughlin heard both sides of the argument.
Memes. What are they? Where do they come from? And how are they actually pronounced?
DCUfm News' flagship show Newswire hosted a live broadcasted 8th Amendment debate last Wednesday in the nursing building on the Glasnevin campus. The pro-life, pro-choice debate is known to be controversial, and Newswire had Alva Smith from Coalition to Repeal the 8th and Sinead Slattery from the pro-life campaign speaking for both sides. As it is in Ireland, the 8th Amendment of the Constitution criminalises abortion, and both sides were asked about the pros and cons regarding this.
Recognise that we can't go on exporting the problem.
For me, and hearing everything that Alva said, I'd like to go back to that, but just in terms of my setting out my stall, I believe that this is a civil rights issue, and I believe it's the biggest civil rights issue of our generation.
Head of News on DCUfm and moderator for the evening, Stephen Murphy, said he was pleased with the event and that he thought it was educational for the audience.
DCU Debate Sock held a forum about memes last week, and our Paul Dwyer went along to hear some of the tense and heated arguments presented.
We went down to Debate Sock to find out just this very thing.
There's a young buck up the corner on Tinder. Looks like he just got some bad news. Not exactly a sold-out show tonight. The cheap seats still haven't been filled, but there's a good crowd of lads waiting around for their lifts home nonetheless. This lad here is tapping out a sick beat. Very pleased with that performance. The MC for the night looked a bit wound up before the big moment. He's added up to here with his topic of conversation. It's clearly tearing his cult apart. He even looks a bit blue over the whole thing. He looks like a lad who wears a suit to bed. Little do the crowd know, he's in his pyjamas. This lad got up then and gave the crowd a good laugh.
A meme is an image, video, or piece of text that's typically humorous in nature and is spread over the internet. But basically, it's the fucking turkeys of the internet.
Yeah, here, look. Fuck this shit.
Well, folks, you can't argue with that. An opinion that was well thought, informed, and clearly not coming from a woman who feels marginalised in the Irish comedy scene. I wanted to find out more about memes, so I went to the one man that I knew who would have enough time to take out of his busy schedule to talk to us about such a pressing issue. So I'm here with Dylan Keogh, SU President. Dylan, what can you tell me about the memes crisis?
Well, there's actually a big history of the memes crisis. They started off back in the day in Romans and Greeks, and they're black and white first of all. So if you're colourblind, you're in a bit of bother, and they're silent, so they can get away with a lot of stuff.
Wait a second. You're talking about mimes?
Yeah, huh?
You're talking about mimes? No, we're meant to be talking about memes. You're talking about mimes. How can you call yourself a man of the people if you think mimes are not only a threat but they're still in fashion?
Condoms are boys, yeah.
Yeah, go
on. So I was always interested in debating. I always had a passion for it and the free speech and the conversation it evokes. But in DCU there wasn't a debating society in my first year, which was the real downfall for DCU, I thought. So in my second year I set up the DCU Debating Society along with my friend Pierce. So we set up the society to really evoke free speech and just discussion within DCU. And like I don't get to do too much debating myself, but like I facilitate it and like I try and, you know, push that as much as possible within DCU.
Seamus, have you ever been the victim of a meme yourself?
No, I haven't.
I found this just outside the Henry Grattan building, where apparently Debate Stop chairperson Seamus Cummins is saying, "Cash me outside, how about that?" Was it childish of the person to actually make this meme? Well, that's just not up for debate. Paul Dwyer, DCUtv News.
Goodbye and good night.